Hi, I'm Lynelle and this is my story. Along my journey, God has always been there, always been. I was brought up in a Christian home and always gone the Christian way. We've had many hassles along life and things that we've encountered along life, but God has always been there on my journey. I met my husband Don when he was transferred to Canberra and to join the police force, and from that time on, we've had 51 years of a beautiful marriage, and I'm still married to him and very, very happy. But 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which was a blow and which was really hard for us to cope with at the time. But we knew that we could get through it. We were put in touch with a neurologist who wasn't very helpful and who was said that there really nothing could be done for me, which was very disheartening for us. But we continued on, and our journey came along, and we found another neurologist and another neurosurgeon, and that they were most helpful. And that then, after a time, they said that I was eligible for the deep brain stimulation surgery, which I had on the 19th of November last year. Dealing with Parkinson's was very hard for us to accept as a couple, especially for Don, because he could see me deteriorating, my condition deteriorating, and he couldn't do anything about it. And that was hard for him. And the doctors kept telling us about this surgery, but he was very hesitant, because he said he was worried that I would lose something else. The shaking and the tremor would go, but I would lose my voice or would lose another part of my body, and that was very difficult. But God was there. God was there all the time. He was there working quietly away, and I was still doing things in the church, and was what I could and what I was able to do. And when I look back now, I can see God's handiwork in so many areas, so many ways. When we finding the new neurologist and the neurosurgeon, that was a miracle. But God was there. He was, and then when they said to me, "You are eligible for the surgery," then we had to really seriously consider what we were going to do, because Dom kept saying, "Oh, I don't like it. I don't think it's right for us." But then I just gave it all to God. I just said to him, "You know all about me. You know all about us, and you will see us through." And once I made the decision, we made it together. We prayed a lot. We talked a lot about it. We cried together. We prayed together. And when I'd made that decision, I had the peace, the most beautiful peace come into my life, into my heart. I just knew that I was doing the right thing, and from then on, everything just fell into place. And God was there in the midst of it all. Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we think, oh no, what are we going to do? What's going to happen? But then we realise, then you've got to stop and say, no, it's going to be okay, because we are there. Well, I didn't realise how much testing I would have to have before the surgery. There was a lot of procedures, and they told me all this, but I didn't really understand all it, and I didn't really take it in till the scariest thing was having an MRI. An MRI on my brain, 40 minutes, and I had to lie very still. When you have a tremor, very dominant tremor down your left side, you can't really keep still for 40 minutes. And I knew that it was very vital that I have that MRI, because they couldn't do the surgery without it. And I organised everything. I thought I had everything in place. I'd made an appointment early in the morning because I was better in the mornings. And they rang up at 4:30 the afternoon before that and said, "Sorry, we've had an emergency. We can't have your MRI till 12 o'clock the next day." And I said, oh no, what am I going to do? And then I just said, okay, well, God, you'll just have to be there even more, And I just handed it all back to him. And I took a sleeping tablet beforehand, and I'm driving to the Mater Hospital in the car with Don. At 11:45, I took a sleeping tablet. In the middle of the day, I was very dopey, but I was very still during the MRI, and God had that all under control. I was trying to control it. I had made the appointments. I thought, I was doing the right thing, but God was there. And just in those little things, all the appointments I had to have, I'd say, well, here's another one, God. You've got to get me through this one, and He did. And I eventually had the surgery. Deep brain stimulation surgery is very, very unique. It's very different because you're awake most of the time. For all but the last hour, you're awake, so it's very scary. And so I proceeded to email my friends and talk to my friends and phone my friends, and I asked them to pray. And I said, I want 3 specific things to pray. I want you to pray for the surgeon and pray that you will guide her. I asked them to pray for me during the scary bits, because when they're drilling in the top of your head and you're awake, it's scary, it's not fun. And also asked them to pray for Don, that he would just feel God's presence with him. It would give him patience, and he would be assured that everything would be all right. And that's what happened. I'm closer to God now. I'm closer to him. I always used to do my devotions, but now my devotions are very much part. I can't start the day without my devotions. I have to have my quiet time in my chair every morning with him. And I feel more confident in speaking to people about him because of the support. I can't stress how much the support of everyone, the church family, my family from all around Australia, all around the world, will contact me saying, we're praying for you. And I just feel God there in every little thing I do now. Whereas before it was sort of like, oh yeah, I can do this. But now I say I can do this, I know, because of God's help. And this morning when I was doing my devotions, I read Jeremiah 29, verse 11. And it said, I know the plans I have for you and the plans to keep you safe. But also the next verse says, and you need to pray. You need to pray, and I will be always with you. And He's always with me in every step I take. If people are going through difficult times, I would say to them, be open to God. Pray honestly about your cares and your worries. Talk to someone who will help you, and just know that there is people there that will help you. You can't do it all by yourself. God will be there, and also the people around you will be there to help you and to support you. I couldn't have done it without my church family. They were so beautiful. These cards that I got, the little messages, the messages on the phone, the messages in the mail, the cards, the flowers, the food that arrived at our house, just thought you might need a meal and things like that. They were just beautiful. And even now, I still get phone calls, how are you doing, And my church family really were very, very supportive, and I'm very, very grateful to them. Don and I have welcomed 2 boys into our family. They were both born in Canberra. In those days, back in those days, we used to put an ad in the paper to say that the birth of the baby, and both times we put God's gift of a son. We had 2 sons, Troy and Bradley, and we always treated them as God's gift. They were our gift to them, to us, and that was very special. And they grew up and they did all the boy things along the way, and both eventually married. And then Troy joined the police force, before he was married. I was very much against that. I was very much praying that he wouldn't pass, because I didn't want him to be a policeman, because I knew the dangers of the police force. But then when he'd come home and he'd say, "Mum, I've passed that exam," I have to say, okay, I had to accept that I had to rededicate him back. And he was dedicated to God when he was a baby, and I had to rededicate him back in 1992. He joined the police force, where he was there. But then life went on. He had a beautiful wife, married and had 2 beautiful children. But then when he was 47 years old, just 3 years ago, one Friday night I was getting the evening meal ready, and we got a phone call from his wife to say Troy had fallen off his roof. He had hit a sandstone wall with his head, and he was in an ambulance. He was on the way to hospital, and we had to get to the ambulance, had to get to the hospital very quickly. And he died on the way. He hemorrhaged, his brain hemorrhaged, and they couldn't save him. Now that was we just thought, what are we going to do? Why did God do this? We've done the right things. We've looked after him. We've dedicated him to him, and it didn't happen in the force. But probably I may have been able to accept it a bit better if he'd been killed in the line of duty. But he wasn't. He was on his roof trying to fix a hole in the roof, and he slipped. And your life I thought, how am I going to get through this? But you know what? I did. I did, with so many people praying. And that week, I don't know how I got through that week before his funeral. He died on one Friday. The next Friday, we had his funeral. The biggest funeral in Ipswich has ever known. So many people were there, so many police were there, the police commissioner was there, and it was just such a service. And leading up to that, I just didn't realise how much God was there supporting me. My family, my 2 sisters who came up to support me said, "How are you doing it?" I said, "I'm only doing it with God's help, because I don't know how I'm doing it, but I know He's there." And the church family then were just absolutely amazing. They just rallied around us. Anything we wanted, they were there, and it was just beautiful to see them supporting us. And it was very hard. It's still very hard. 3 years now since he's left us, but we know that he's left a beautiful legacy of these 2 children. And we're very grateful for that. Why did it happen to us? Why? And we Don and I sat down in our quiet times and said, why? Was there something that was going to happen later on in life that He didn't want Troy to go through, or us to go through? I don't know, but I just know that He has been there for us through that. And when people say to me, "You don't know how I feel," I say, "I do know how you feel," and it's given me so many opportunities to talk to people about their grief and what. And they say, "But how would you know?" And I say, "I do know, because I've been there, done that." And there's one particular family in our church who has been through that, who lost a son many years ago, and this lady has been a very great influence me. I often ring her up and say, "How do you cope?" And she said, "We only cope because God's there. People are supporting us and praying for us." When it first happened, somebody said to me, "You'll just have to get over it," and I said, "I will never get over it," because and she said, and I said that to her. She said, "No, you'll never. You'll always be there. You'll always have a special place in your heart." God has changed me through this experience by having more patience with people, having more love for people, having more understanding for people, and just not saying, "Oh, well, I can't do anything about it," and just being not worrying about the small things in life. The small things in life come and go, but and not worrying about tomorrow, because we're not promised tomorrow. We're only promised now, this the moment. And we realised that, when we thought our lives were going really well, and that Friday night we got that phone call, and our lives changed. So I try not to worry too much, and I try and hand it all over to God, and things that I think I can deal with, I say, no, it's yours. I've got to be careful that I don't take them back from God. Sometimes I do that. I say, oh, you can have this problem, I don't know what to do, God, and then but I can, but that's when I have to stop and think, no, that's in your hands. I've given it to you. It's you'll deal with it. You know what to do, and He does. He's got a plan for our lives, and He knows all about us. He knows all about us before we were born, and I think someone said once that He holds you in the palm of His hand, and He does.